Welcome, everybody, to Cinema Royale. I am Travis Hopson of the Punch Drunk Critics, and joining me today is my buddy, Chris Bumbray, which means,
Hey, Travis.
what's up, man? Which means there's an action movie that we're going to be talking about. And we're
My
gonna,
background is a lot less exciting than yours because you got Mission Impossible. I'm in my kitchen because
I hear the feedback from people. People love these stupid backgrounds I put up, especially because I do like a different one for like when I do Channel 7. I like to make a different collage in the background, and people seem to like it. So
I got my chin up bar there.
I know, right?
Action here, shape for you. You could do one. You could do one.
We are talking about Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning Part 1, which is the seventh movie in the Mission Impossible franchise. Chris, what is your overall feeling about the Mission Impossible franchise? Not necessarily this movie, but the franchise as a whole. Are you a fan?
Yeah. I mean, I'm a huge fan because I'm a huge Tom Cruise fan. I love pretty much all the Mission Impossible movies. I only have one caveat about the series. It's the one thing that's bothered me, and it happens in every film. It's the masks. I hate the masks.
They really introduced that. What was it? The third movie to introduce those?
No, it was even in the first one they had them, but it wasn't like it is now. In the second one was the one where they really overdid it with the masks because literally they're just pulling off masks every 2 seconds.
Yeah,
that drove me crazy, and that's always been the problem because it's just the easiest way out of every situation. Which is why I kind of liked Dead Reckoning because they do some more interesting things with the masks in this time. But I've never liked the mask thing. But I think if you take away the masks, these movies are amazing.
The mask thing is like the hardest thing for me to buy.
Yeah, I don't buy it at all. It doesn't seem realistic at all. In the first one, they did it in a cool way because it's actually like Tom Cruise when he's made up to look like somebody else. They're just using really good makeup. They had Rick Baker do the makeup.
Right.
But then every other movie since then where it's just automatically becomes like this other person.
It was like
same makeup on
Vanessa Kirby's whips off his mask and he's Chris Bumbray underneath, and you're like,
yeah. I love Tom Cruise, but then they have and Vanessa Kirby, like her makeup is perfect. Like when they put on the mask, and it just that's always been my big caveat with the series. But outside of that, I love these movies because I love stunts, I love old school action, I love Cruise. And I've some are better than others, but I've liked. It's funny. For me, the series really got good with Ghost Protocol and then started going, and especially since McQuarrie.
Was that Brad Bird?
Yeah,
that was Brad Bird on that one. That was really good. That was a really good one.
It was interesting because Rob
like the Fast Five of Mission Impossible.
It is. It totally is. Yeah. Well, and Rob Liefeld just posted something interesting on Twitter because Collider had an article up about how wasn't Jeremy Renner supposed to take over the Mission Impossible franchise? Because back when Ghost Protocol came out, that was the buzz. Yeah. And Rob Liefeld was like, it would have never happened. And for me, my thing to that is the second in Ghost Protocol that Tom Cruise climbed up the fucking tower in Dubai and it opens up to IMAX, nobody was ever going to be the star of that franchise but Tom Cruise, because nobody else in their right mind would be up there. Right. And Jeremy Renner is not going to do stunts like that. And that was, for me, that was Tom Cruise reestablishing himself as a full-on movie star. Nobody else was ever going to take over the franchise, nor should they.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. I have not always been the hugest fan of Mission Impossible. I loved the first one, and then was kind of lukewarm on the next two. I thought they were fine, but they didn't really make a mark with me. It really wasn't until, I think, like you said, Ghost Protocol for me was the one where I started really sitting up and paying attention to them, because they felt like bigger than just your average action movie. They had something more, which is kind of like what I said about Fast Five, where the franchise becomes something else. And Tom Cruise recaptured that old school movie star magic. It seemed like he had it with that movie, and he's carried it with him ever since, like through these movies.
The outrageous stunts, because he had never done those kinds of stunts before. Like, he'd done stunts, they all have good stunts in them, but that was the one where it was like, when Tom Cruise went from being like a movie star to almost being like a Jackie Chan type figure, where it's like, what's he going to do next? In every movie, he just does something even crazier than he did in the one before, and I mean, this one, when the bike jump happens in the theater, which was packed, you could hear a pin drop. And I do not get that anymore in movie theaters, where people are like holding their breath, because it was you could tell it's real. And when he lands, you could almost see him like break character, right? Like the way and it's you're not watching Ethan Hunt do the stunt anymore. You're watching Tom Cruise do the stunt.
Yeah. No, I
Like,
totally agree. The bike
yeah,
is incredible in this. And but to me, it's not even my favorite like action sequence in the movie.
me neither. Me neither.
That's the thing that's amazing about
Yeah.
Possible Dead Reckoning is that that's the one. It's almost like a misdirect. Like, here's this stunt that's amazing, it's awesome, but you're watching it and you're like, shit, it's like my second or maybe third like best favorite action sequence in the movie.
For me,
it's
like
stunning.
It's the last 20 minutes with the train where it just is like
incredible.
It's like a disaster movie
yeah.
where they just keep falling and they have to like that. To me, that has rarely been equaled in a movie that I can remember recently. Like that is in bravura filmmaking.
Yeah, I love that. I love the car chase. There's a great car chase scene early on where they're in this little shitty car. That was a lot of fun.
I just interviewed Pom Klementieff and I asked her about it, like her reactions. And she said that was all her. She wasn't instructed to do that. She said that was, we're filming inside the car. And they had the camera on her while she was doing it. And that's just the faces that she was making. Because she said, it's like, you always dream about doing that. Like, I was going to drive through all these cars. And she said she was like, and she was just going nuts. And they just put it in the movie.
That's awesome. Pom Klementieff, if people know from Guardians of the Galaxy, she's in this. She plays an assassin named Paris. So let's talk about the plot of the movie, which is timely because it deals with AI. It deals with AI.
I feel like if they'd done it now, they wouldn't be, because the thing that's always funny to me about movies with AI, they always have to have this avatar, right? Like the eye, and they call it the entity. I feel like now they'd be more sophisticated about it because it's not like one thing, right?
Yeah, I thought it was a clever bit here. So the AI knows the entity. It's of course, it's so powerful that anybody who has it can control the world. Basically, that's kind of the thing with these sorts of things. But I like the fact that the AI, the entity, is fighting for its own self-preservation, to be for its own independence. I kind of like that aspect of it. And yet he has a human avatar played by Isai Morales, a character named Gabriel, who has deep ties to Ethan Hunt. I know, yeah. So they're dealing with AI, which is a very familiar thing. Oh my God, AI is going to take over the world type stuff. But I feel like there's a couple of clever things that they did with it that make this familiar plot a little bit more interesting.
Yeah, and I mean, I like that they make Isai Morales' character like a complete psychopath. Like ultra evil, which I kind of liked, and some of the dialogue was a little much though, where he's like, he's
ridiculous.
He's the Messiah of death. He's the Messiah of darkness, and death is his gift to the world. It's like I was kind of like rolling my eyes a little bit.
Yeah,
it reminded me of Man on Fire, always that scene where Christopher Walken is talking about Creasy and he goes, Creasy's odd as death, and he's about to paint his masterpiece. Like it's always kind of like that.
That's not a bad walk-in.
I do love that line. Yeah,
that's not a bad walk-in.
That was one of my favorite. One of my
favorite you over for a reading of Suicide Kings.
Yeah. Wow. Sure. Hey. Oh.
One of my all-time favorite movies, Suicide Kings.
Yeah, I like Suicide Kings as well. No, but I mean, it's funny. Things that I like about Dead Reckoning Part 1 though aren't even the most obvious things. Like I was talking to Laura about it because we saw it, on IMAX with some friends, and our friends
sent us to a place that has like the rumble seats.
Yeah, and our friends didn't like it, which was weird, but we both loved it, and it was kind of the thing about it that was great is that like the sets are very tactile and real, and the production design is legit production design. They're not using CGI to do everything.
Yeah.
The rooms are interesting that they're in. The architecture is interesting. The set design is interesting. You never get that kind of attention to detail in a movie anymore, unless it's something that's from Tom Cruise, really. Yeah. Somebody that has a real knowledge of cinematic language. And the same thing for Christopher McQuarrie. The visual aspect of it is always interesting to look at without being overly stylized.
I always love that the Mission Impossible movies will go to locales that you don't always get, and they will show aspects of those places that you've never been to. I like the fact that these characters can say I've never been to Amsterdam or wherever it was they were. Like they can say these are places.
Venice.
Venice. You imagine these characters being all over the place, all over the world, and yet they're finding places that they've never been before. I always find the little things like that to be really great.
And I always like that in these movies, let's say they go to Paris or something like that. The first shot isn't of the Eiffel Tower.
Right.
Like it's a little bit more deep, deep cut. Like let's show people that we're actually there. Right. And it's not just stock footage. You get the flavor of the people.
Yeah, I always loved that. The only other movie that did that for me recently was like, other than the Mission Impossible, was like The Man from Uncle. That made me feel that way.
Well, yeah, Man from Uncle. I mean, the thing is, sometimes it's cheaper to shoot in the location. Like, I mean, I'm sure you don't want to talk about it, but I just reviewed Sound of Freedom, and whatever you want to say about the movie.
Oh yeah, I don't know. I know a little bit about it, but I haven't seen it.
Whatever you want to say about the movie, one thing that's noteworthy is that they shot it actually in Cartagena. And it looks amazing that they shot it in Cartagena. And to me, that will always be better than if you're using CGI or if you're setting it on a different planet or you're using green screen. The fact that you're actually going to another country and shooting it authentically in a way that's interesting to me is always, the Bourne movies are great with that as well, because they always shoot them, in very interesting locations, not just.
I thought Kandahar did that recently too, for a movie.
Very much.
Unfortunately, didn't really catch on with people that I thought was really good.
I thought it was really. I mean, I like that director a lot too. I even like National Champions quite a bit, but it's just kind of
pretty good too.
Yeah, it's
He's a good director. I like Roman Waugh. I was sad. I talked to him for that movie. I was sad that it didn't do better. So
Shot Caller is one that you and I have talked about loving many times. Money.
Yes. But my favorite thing about these movies is the women. I love the women in these movies.
They're all amazing in this movie.
They're all great in this movie. It's like they came to me and said, Travis, who are your favorite women right now? And we're just gonna put them all in one movie for you. And then they're like, there's Haley Atwell, who I adore, and Rebecca Ferguson, who I absolutely love, and Vanessa Kirby, who I love, and Pom Klementieff, who I love. And like all these women that I love, they put them all in one movie. And they're all fantastic, but especially Haley Atwell is great in this.
Yeah, she has probably the movie's best arc, I think, where she kind of goes, because she's like the audience avatar in some ways. And what they did was that's kind of like the old Mission Impossible show, though, where a civilian or a guest star would get involved, and they would be brought in. Like, I really liked that aspect, and I thought she was great. I also like the fact that they didn't turn her into like this invincible action hero as it went on. She is kind of the audience surrogate who's just trying to survive. And Cruise is like, don't worry, we're going to be okay. We're going to be okay. And it's just, and I think
I like that for a lot of the movie. You couldn't really tell if you could trust her or not.
No. And I like Cruise. I think he's one of the few guys that I'll really accept as like a true hero in these movies, because you believe him when he says as his character that their lives are more important than his own. And what I like about him too, as opposed to a lot of the other action stars like Diesel and Statham, is that he'll get the shit kicked out of him and he doesn't care, because he knows that makes him more heroic than otherwise. He's like an old school action star that way. Like Ethan Hunt is getting like the shit kicked out of him at different times in the movie. And I think that's what's cool about it. Even the alley fight with like Pom Klementieff, he's not winning from brute strength. He's winning because he's scrappy and he's doing things that are interesting. And she told me in the interview that I had with her that Cruise, he doesn't want a lot of phony staging and stuff like that and being ultra stylized. She said that he will go for some stylization where he's like, oh, throw a kick that's really cool, do a really cool kick. And at this angle, but she said he like edits the action scenes in his head while they're filming it, because he knows what looks interesting, but he wants it to look like they're scrapping and that neither one knows what the next move is going to be that they're going to throw, and if he gets hit, that's good, like he needs to be kind of, so like having The Rock or Vin Diesel go up against this girl, I doubt either one of them would have allowed themselves to get their ass kicked like Cruise.
They would have. They would have allowed. They would have allowed her to like wrap their legs around their head and like have them in a choke because it's kind of sexy. And guys,
that's the only thing they would have allowed.
Yeah, guys would be like, "I'd let her do that to me." They like that kind of dumb comment from dudes.
Yeah, whereas Cruise would be like, he'll get hit and he'll fucking like he'll be on the ground, and then he'll fucking punch her out too, which neither of them would do. You never have Vin Diesel or The Rock punch a woman, whereas he'll just fucking cold cock her because she's his opponent and he wants to get the fuck out.
She's trying to kill him, so it's like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
Hit her.
There's a part where he's like beating her ribs. And he's like,
I love Ethan Hunt in this movie.
Yeah.
I think maybe more than I do in some of the other ones, because such a hero in this. But like you said, when he talks about being willing to sacrifice himself for the lives of his team, he's got multiple movies to back it up. Like he doesn't just say it, right? Like we talk about Vin Diesel and Dwayne Johnson in a lot of the movies that they're in, especially the Fast and Furious movies, obviously, where Vin Diesel, like I can't even remember the last time we've seen Dom Toretto in a scene with most of the people that are supposedly his family. Like he's always separate, doing something that's for him, not necessarily for them. Like they're fighting for themselves. But Ethan Hunt is always fighting for the world and the people closest to him and putting himself at risk for them. And so when he says something like that, you believe it, you buy it.
Yeah, there's a weight to Cruise's acting. I think that's always what makes these movies great. And I really like the relationship with him and Ilsa. It's not necessarily even romantic. It's different, and
it's a little bit romantic.
Kind of. I mean, Cruise, the only time he's ever really been in a romance was Michelle Monaghan and then in Connolly in Top Gun last year. Like I feel like he shies away from that, which is too bad because I love him in a romance. I just watched Days of Thunder again the other day, and he's great in that with Nicole Kidman. And then I love Jerry Maguire. I do kind of wish that Cruise would try something like that again. Like a movie where he's not just jumping off of, like when he's not doing something completely insane. Like I'd love to see him do a good old fashioned drama again. I feel like that's maybe not what he's interested in, though. I think he likes to push himself.
I feel like Vanilla Sky ended that sort of thing for him.
Yeah, and I love Vanilla Sky. I mean, the last time he did a straight drama, I think, was American Made. But the thing about him, though, that's interesting is that I feel like he has no fear, and I feel like he's the most confident man alive. I think that he knows that he's gonna survive when he does these crazy stunts, right? Like the belief that the guy has in himself is unreal, right?
It's gonna suck when he doesn't one day.
I know. I mean, who knows? Like,
it just doesn't. It just.
I always wonder. They always have that one thing, like Jackie Chan.
His parachute's full of like knives and forks, like a Looney Tunes cartoon. It's like, oh shit!
Whoops! Where that head out.
I grabbed the wrong pack.
Well, it's like I remember. It's like that Jackie Chan. He said he never thought about his own mortality until Armor of Gods, when he fell off just doing a regular stunt and he fell and he broke his head open. Like. You never know. I mean, knock on wood, though. I hope that Cruise is still doing this when he's Harrison Ford's age for real.
He said he wants to, so who knows?
Interesting thing about Pom Klementieff, though, her character is named Paris.
Yeah.
And Paris is actually a character for the Mission Impossible show that's very similar to hers in the movie, but is a good guy. And it was played by Leonard Nimoy. And I'm pretty sure they're setting her up to have a big role in the franchise as it goes on.
You think?
Yeah. I mean,
even based off this?
Yeah, it makes sense.
All right. All right. We'll see what happens. I think this is, look, I love everything about this movie. I think it's the best action movie of the year in a year that has already been really good for action movies.
The fact that this is even better than John Wick 4 is impressive, because John Wick 4 was a very well done action movie as well.
Very good action movie.
But it's one of those things, though, between this and John Wick, it really does show you that like the old ways are better a lot of the times. People don't necessarily want CGI. They like their stars doing stuff. It doesn't have to be the most elaborate, confusing thing ever, though. It can be less than it would be with CGI. But I think the fact that it's people that are actually doing it, that you're invested in, makes a big difference. The old ways are better, I think.
Yeah. This is a very old school, classic feeling sort of action movie. And I really, really dig it. And I hope people go and check it out. I think it's tracking to do pretty good.
It is. It is. I feel like this and Barbie and Oppenheimer will all do pretty well, assuming that they're good movies. I'm not
convinced that Oppenheimer will.
I don't think Oppenheimer is going to do the kind of business that these movies will, but I think that it'll eventually get to like 100 million or something, which I think is probably all they're really aiming for.
It's not all Christopher Nolan's aiming for, trust me.
I mean, like Oppenheimer and expect it to make $1 billion.
I just don't think that people are interested in seeing a movie about a guy who made the atomic bomb. No matter who's directing it.
I don't know. I mean, it's my most anticipated movie of the year. It's one of Laura's.
I'm not talking about movie nerds like us. I'm talking about
it's one of Laura's most anticipated movies of the year. She had to decide between Barbie and
movie nerds or their significant
other. She had to decide between Barbie and Oppenheimer for the premiere, because I'm not around for either of them and they're on the same night. And she's going to Barbie, but only because I really want to see Oppenheimer. So she's going to wait and watch it with me.
Yeah.
Although I want to see Barbie as well. I'm going to have to see both of them.
like, I just don't. I have like one friend who's super excited for Oppenheimer, but like nobody else. Everybody else is excited for Barbie. And I just don't know. I've heard personally, as someone who knows a little bit about Oppenheimer, I don't think Oppenheimer, the man, is that interesting. I mean, what he did is interesting, but I don't think he is. And I think
the movie is about what he did, not who he was, though.
Right.
I think it's about what he did.
It's gonna have to be, because I don't think he's that, like I said, that interesting. But we'll see what happens. If anybody can make him interesting and make this story interesting, it's Nolan. So
Pisses me off because you're gonna see both of those before I will. You cannot don't spoil it for me.
Like I said, we bitched and moaned, and we even had Critics' Choice reach out on our behalf. So be like, hey man, this is bullshit. So
they're both on Wednesday in Montreal. They're both Wednesday night, and I'm gone.
Tuesday. Well, there's still two of them on Tuesday, but they just added a Barbie on Monday so that we can all go see both. And it's like, thank you. So yeah. Anyway, it should be interesting, that showdown. But hopefully, Mission Impossible beats both of them, because I think it's probably gonna be better than
it might.
The best of all three movies. That's my opinion. Those are our thoughts on Mission Impossible: Dead Reckoning Part 1. Part 2 comes out next year, if I remember right.
I don't think it's coming next year.
Yeah.
I don't think it's coming next year. I think we'll get it minimum 2 years. They say next year, but the SAG strike's going to happen. You know, there's such a technically complicated movies to make. It's same thing with Spider-Verse, to be honest. Like, there's no fucking coming out in the spring. Yeah. Especially with people loving them as much as they did with Spider-Verse. People are saying it's a masterpiece, and I agree with them. It's one of those things where it's like people will wait another year if you're going to do it right. They really will.
Absolutely. And they've set such an incredibly high bar with that movie.
I'd rather wait another year, do it really well, put everything you need to put into it.
I can't stress this enough. They cannot drop the ball with the last arc of that movie, with the last movie of that trilogy.
I feel like what happened with the studio, though, when Across the Spider-Verse opened and it did as well as it did, I feel like the next day they got a check for like another $100 million to like double the budget. It's like, it's make $1 billion. Like, it's huge, like 3 times what the last movie made. It's going to be massive. They're sitting on a huge. I would imagine the budget for that movie after opening weekend jumped significantly. Yeah. Like, everything that they were having a hard time with getting, they were like, yeah, you can do it.
Well, the problem they were having was you've read the stories about the animators being upset.
Oh yeah,
about the working conditions. So they probably would be wise to add some more time so that people aren't getting burned out and they can make the movie.
100%. Another year, even 2 years, I think it's fine as long as the movie's worthwhile. The things I've always liked about those movies, though, is the voice acting, where they let the people use the voices. They're not doing cartoon voices. I've always liked that.
Yeah, I totally agree. All right, so you've heard our thoughts on Mission Impossible: Dead Reckoning. It opens this weekend. You should definitely go and check it out. Go see it on an IMAX. Go see it in a place that gives you the rumble seats or whatever. That's what I did. It was awesome, especially during the train sequence. Definitely go and do that. Don't go see it.
It was good on IMAX. I saw it on IMAX. I enjoyed watching it on IMAX.
I've already got a date to see it on Sunday at the Smithsonian. So it's going to be awesome.
Oh, wow. Jeez, yeah.
Yeah, I can't wait, man. All right, thanks again to my buddy Chris Bumbray at JoeBlo.com, who I'm going to be seeing next week in Comic-Con. Yeah. It's going to be awesome. We're going to party. We're going to be drunk. We're going to be all sorts of things. We might even get some.
We would be drunk quite a bit.
We might even get some work done.
I'm drunk right now. No, I'm kidding.
Don't try to do little chin-ups when you're drunk. I don't know how that.
Well, I may not make it to Comic-Con then. I'll show up on crutches.
Thanks again, everybody. This has been Cinema Royale. I'm Travis Ivan. You can find me every day at punchdrunkcritics.com. You can find Cinema Royale anywhere you get your podcasts. And be sure to follow us on YouTube and so forth and so forth. All right, I'm out of here. I'll see you guys next time. Bye.
Thanks for checking out the show. If you like what we're laying down, please subscribe to our channel and click the bell to receive notifications for all of our latest stuff.